Okay. Welcome everybody to our last session of Customer Day, TMF Week. I'm happy to see that there are some people here that are attending, that there are lots of people that are joining in to this morning. And I just want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us today for our last session of TMF Week. I just want to make sure that you guys can hear and see us. So please just go in the chat and let us know that you can hear us, or send us a thumbs up. Let us know in the chat where you're calling from. That way we'll know. All right, great. We're getting some people in the chat here, so great. I'm glad to hear that people are hearing us and seeing us clearly. So we're gonna move right along. Before we begin, we're going to start with some housekeeping rules. So just to let you know, all these sessions are being recorded and they'll be made available at the end of the day. So if you miss anything, don't worry, you can just go back to the platform and just rewatch your favorite sessions. Attendees will be receiving an attendance certificate for the entire TMF week. So if you attended one or more session, you will be getting the certificate very shortly. And of course, questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. So get in your questions, go to the right side of your screen. You'll see that there is an engagement panel, and just enter your questions there. And of course, don't forget to network, rub elbows with your peers, and make sure that you, connect with people from the conference and get to know them and connect. So just to let you know, this presentation will be around 45 minutes. And then of course, there'll be question and answers at the end that can range anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. So make sure to get your answers in. And then there will be the networking break, the last one of TMF week. So without further ado, I'm pleased to present to you Donna Tella. She's going to be covering TMF training, designing an agile approach to TMF for inspection readiness. So we're really excited for this session and ties in with the other sessions that we had before. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Donna,
thank you so much. Thank you so
welcome.
much, Kim, for this great introduction. Just give me a few seconds to share my screen and the presentation. And just tell me if you see my slides.
I do, and they are up.
Okay, perfect.
Have a great session.
So, thank you so much, everyone, to be here today. I'm a little bit nervous because it's the last session of a great week, of a great day. If you have been able to attend the previous session, there were really lots of great content, good vision for the future of eTMF. So I really hope that you will enjoy this last session. These are the topics that we're going to cover today. So we start to see the process as a pillar of TMF management. We will see how to measure our trial master file. We will see how to use the risk to be inspection ready. And we are going to conclude the session with the water maturity level in TMF management. So a very brief introduction of myself for those who don't know me. So my journey in the pharmaceutical life science industry started 14 years ago in neonatology and rare disease clinical trial management. I always point my attention in managing clinical documentation and clinical processes, and that means also trial management. And in 2021, I decided to move to Montrium to, let's say, to fulfill my very big passion for trial master file. And I became head of eTMF services here at Montrium. Just this year, I also joined the CDISC TMF Reference Model Education Governance Committee. So the process as a TMF pillar. If you think about findings, critical finding during inspection, these are some examples. Essential documents were not defined in the SOP. nor was there a clear policy and process to ensure the accurate completeness of the TMF contemporaneously. There was a lack of effective oversight QC of an eTMF by the sponsor. There was a failure to define the TMF within the quality system, and there were several issues identified within the procedures which result in the TMF being incomplete when provided to the inspector. So all these findings are basically findings related to the process, to the TMF management process. And I think that the process is really the focus of our attention when it comes to inspection readiness, when it comes to succeed an inspection, because the process is really the link between people and technology when we think about TMF management. I think that to succeed to an inspection, to achieve a robust inspection readiness status, definitely what we need to achieve is the right combination of these three elements: people, process, and technology, where process really play a key role in this relationship. So because by my experience, by what I've seen in life science industry, what I see working with company, working in a sponsor, honestly, I think that process comes before technology. So I want to hear your experience as well. So do you believe that in having a process in place before introducing technology? I agree, you don't agree, or you don't know?
Okay, so we just launched a poll. Please head over to the right side of your screen and go to the poll icon and just enter in your answers. So I know there's some answers coming in here right now. If you guys could head over to the poll section. Yeah, okay, now I'm seeing some more answers come in.
Okay, great.
We're going to give you guys a little bit more time, a little minute or so, just because there's a little bit of a delay. So just want to make sure that you guys are able to get in your answers. So just make sure to head over to the right side of your screen. The poll is now live and you can enter in your answer. Oh, and there's a clear winner. As I'm seeing
really?
Here. Yeah.
So?
Okay, I'm going to end the poll now in 5, 4, 3, 2, and end it. I'm showing the results. So it would seem that 90% agree.
Oh, I
yeah.
love you.
Yeah. So it's definitely a clear winner.
Great. I simply love you because that means that we are aligned, we are on the same page, because really the process comes before technology or systems or whatever. So if you think to clinical trial processes, I think that more or less we can all agree that these are the three main phases of a clinical trial management. We have the plan and setup phases when you conduct the feasibility, due diligence, set up all the plans, you select the CRO and all the stuff, and then there is the conduction of the clinical trial when you manage directly clinical trial, you do oversight, you do monitoring, and all the stuff. And then the closure, when you got the result, you close the sites, you do all the reconciliation, and apply these 3 steps to your TMF process. They are the same because even in the TMF, you have to plan the TMF process. You have to set up everything inside the system. You have to define and agree on the expectation on the processes. So you have to define your TMF plan. And then there is the management. So the uploading, the collection of documents, the indexing, the QC, the verification, the regular reconciliation, and then the closure when you verify that all the pieces of the story are there is no pending issue in terms of quality, that is complete, inspection ready, maybe you perform a storyboarding. So these are, very similar in terms of step of the processes because they are so linked that TMF process must be embedded in clinical trial processes because it's part of the clinical trial, it's part of the story of the clinical trial. So the process of the TMF management is really the foundation, and it's very important to develop a robust process. And to do that, it's very crucial to engage the people, so any stakeholder that is working on the TMF, and we know that it's not just a clinical development affair, the TMF, but there are lots of other departments, unit, but also, vendors, CRO, laboratories, lots of other actors, let's say, in this game. It's very important to define the standard for quality because we want to ensure the quality at any stage of our clinical trial and so of our trial master file management. It's important to support and ensure consistency because it's something that inspector will look at. So it's very important to define common rule and common standard criteria that everyone is referring to, because it's the basis for inspection and audit. If you have listened to other sessions during this week about inspection readiness, we know that when an inspector comes, this person come and ask, how do we do a certain activity? How do we monitor it? How do we perform oversight? How do we QC our TMF? So they ask about the process. They want to hear by us how we produce some document, how we deliver some outcome in the clinical trial. So they want to know our processes. And when it comes to trial master file, obviously, even documentation is a crucial and relevant part of the TMF process because we know that if it is not documented, it didn't happen. So the documentation around the trial master file process is crucial. And I'm talking about a master SOP, to define the guidance and the principle on how to manage your trial master file, any related WUI, working instruction, to enter more into the detail of maybe how to perform the QC, how to set up the study in the system. Any attachment that can provide more details about the process. A TMF plan template, which is crucial to define agreement when there are lots of stakeholders in the process, and it's very important to define all the expectation in terms of TMF inspection readiness and to define an agreement on how to proceed. The TMF index, which is very relevant to understand what has to be filled inside the TMF, and any TMF forms, like for example, I use an access forms for giving access to the system. So the TMF plan is something that really plays a crucial role, a critical role in the TMF process, because it's where you define the strategy to ensure compliance and inspection readiness of your trial master file. It's very important to find the agreement between all the stakeholders. So it's the document where you all agree what are the expectations in terms of TMF. It's where you can define the roles and the responsibility, maybe using a RACI table on who is going to do what in the process, who is going to collect, who is going to QC, who is going to indexing, and the study specific, because we know that any clinical trial is unique. So there can be very specific detail to a clinical trial, and there could be exceptions. So it's very important that to avoid, let's say, to justify maybe agree deviation from an SOP or for a standard of your company, you define this in the TMF plan and you agree on that with all the other stakeholders that bring a relevant part in the TMF process. The TMF index, this is another very crucial document in your process because you can call it table of content, you can call it TMF roadmap, you can call it filling taxonomy. I mean, by my experience, I heard TMF index called in several ways, but at the end of the day, it's something that is going to tell you what must be filled. So what are the expectations in terms, what are the artifacts, the document that I have to fill in the TMF to be inspection ready, to be compliance. Who is going to fill this document? Who are the document owner of, for example, a monitoring plan or a safety monitoring report? And when this document is going to be issued during the clinical trial? Is there a milestone? Is there an event that is linked to this particular document? And where? So where is the authoritative source? Because we know that eTMF can be not the only, say, repository for this kind of documentation. Inspector can allow you to have multiple repository obviously is not the best option. In my opinion, definitely is much better having everything in one place, but you are allowed to have multiple validated systems where you store the original document. So you can, but you must be aware of where these documents are, because the inspector can ask you. And so the TMF index is really an helpful tool to guide you in this answer. And when we talk about the process, we have also the TMF management models. So you can have a passive approach. We have seen several other sessions about this kind of perspective. So just consider the TMF an archive. Please forget about it and develop an active approach. We have already discussed a lot about what it means, and we will see in the next slide what we mean with the active approach. And you can also have an in-house approach. So it means that you do everything from collecting, indexing, QC, health check, oversight. You do everything on your own because you've got the skills, you've got the resources, or you outsource because maybe you don't have enough time, because maybe your team is small, or maybe because it's not skilled enough. And so you prefer to outsource, for example, an health check on the oversight to ensure a better compliance. So because there are different models, because there are different approaches to TMF management, I want to hear what's your approach. You manage it very actively and everything in-house, or maybe you are active, but you outsource, or you are passive and you try to do everything in-house. You are passive and you outsource, or you don't know. So what is your approach in TMF management?
Okay. We're going to launch the next poll. So if you guys will head over to the right side, the poll is now live, so you guys can get in your answers. Okay, so we're getting in some answers here now.
And don't be afraid to be honest. I mean,
exactly.
Every of these, obviously there is a desire for me that every one of you is telling me active and in-house, but I know that, that can be a final step, a final goal that you want to achieve. And the previous phases can be definitely, passive and in-house or passive and outsource. I went through them when I was working as sponsor, so don't be afraid to be honest.
The answers are coming in. I think after you said that, like now people are like adding in some more answers. They're like, okay, you said it, so fine. We're gonna give it a few more seconds so that you guys are able to get in your answers. And as Donna said, be truthful, be honest. No one is going to reprimand you. Just get in your answers.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna end the poll in 3, 2, 1, and I'm showing the results. So it looks like active and in-house got 62%, and then active and outsource was 17%, and then passive and in-house was 15%.
Okay, good. I mean, I think that we can do a presentation just on this answer, but we need to move on because there are other slides, but thank you so much for your feedback. Measure your trial master file. We have discussed about an active approach, the process as a pillar of your TMF process. Now you need to measure your trial master file. And I want to explain you why. So in our training that we provide at TMF services, this is one of the quotes that I usually use to explain the metrics, because I think that in this quote you find all the essential meaning of metrics. So measurement is the first step that leads to control and eventually to improvement. If you can't measure something, you can't understand it. If you can't understand it, you can't control it. If you can't control it, you can't improve it. So really, metrics are so important to understand what's going on in your master file, to try to control it, and try to improve it. Because if you don't know what's going on, you will never be inspection ready. So you have to be aware if you are in compliance, with completeness, with quality, with all the other criteria to ensure the quality of your trial master file. So it's very, very important to measure a trial master file status. It's important to understand the health status. Is it good? Is it maybe not complete? I'm not filling a timely manner, so the health status of my TMF is very poor. It's a way to understand the performance. Maybe you're outsourcing to a vendor, to a CRO, and you want to verify if they are in compliance with the KPI that you set up at the beginning, or maybe you want to verify the performance of your team inside your organization. It's relevant to understand how to plan the future. If I have multiple studies beginning at the same time and I don't have enough resources to manage TMF, and maybe I've got an inspection coming, maybe it's time to call a consultant or outsource some of the activity to someone else to better, manage all the aspects of the TMF management. You can do comparison. Maybe we run very well a trial master file, and then for another study, it was a disaster. So you can do comparison inside even your organization. You can verify trends. Maybe 1 year it was good and the other year was very bad, and try to understand with a root cause analysis what was the cause of that bad, let's say, status of your TMF, and you can verify the status. So definitely, maybe you have 10 TMF open and 1,000 in a close and locked status, so you can verify how active you are in terms of TMF management and how many resources you spent on your TMF process. So this is just an example, as you can start to see your TMF as a source of data. Don't consider it anymore just a repository, just a collection of documents. Yes, it is a collection of documents, but those documents can tell you a lot of data, relevant data for your clinical trial. This is just an example that you can, from quality issue. Quality issue can mean duplicate, can mean inconsistency in data dynamic convention, can mean that I didn't fill the document in the right location, can mean poor good documentation practice. So try to understand more detail about the data of your trial master file, because the metrics in TMF are really everywhere. 4 active studies, 20 users, 10,000, 10 million document managed, 20 pending quality issues. So there are really lots of metrics inside your TMF. They are just there. You have just to pick them up and assess them and define what's the strategy, what's the next step. So the most challenging part, I think, is not to understand that metrics are important. I think that that metrics to measure, if you want to improve, is important to understand where you are. But it's really difficult to understand how to implement the metrics inside your process, how to implement the metrics assessment and the metric evaluation in your TMF management. So what do we want to measure? What we want to measure, the quality, the completeness. How are we going to measure things? Oversight, health check on a regular basis. Who are going to do we tell, and how do we tell them? With the outcome of this assessment, of this check, of this measurement, am I going to, to go to my top management to ask for more resources for managing better the trial master file, or maybe I'm going to ask for outsource some activity to better focus on risk, inspection readiness, and all the stuff. So what is the final goal of this measurement? And what response are we expecting? So I'm expecting to, to have more resources to maybe do an assessment of my SOP and improve this process, and maybe develop a new process design. And how do we maintain compliance? Because the compliance with regulation, with expectation and standards is our constant goal. So because it's so important, check metrics. How often do you check your TMF metrics? On a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, on a yearly basis, on a regular basis, or you don't check them?
Okay, the poll is now live. So make sure to get your answers in, and no judgment. So just be as honest as
exactly.
Right?
There's always space for improvement. No problem at all. I mean, measure the metrics. The final goal is to improve. I want to measure because I want to improve. So
exactly.
don't be afraid.
Exactly. We're going to make sure to give you guys time to answer the poll question. There is a little bit of a delay, so make sure to get your answers in. We're going to give this a few more seconds. All right.
So
I think that's enough time. We are going to end the poll and show you guys the results. So we have 37% that said monthly. That's how often they check. It's great. Quarterly was 25%, and same thing with on a regular basis was 25%. And 12% said that they don't check at all.
Okay, so in that case, there is a lot of space for improvement. I repeat.
Yes.
So now, if you want to be inspection ready, we have discussed about the process because the process is the basis of an inspection. We discussed about the metrics because you have to know the status of your TMF. Now let's talk about the risk, because the risk is another very part, an essential tool for inspection readiness. So risk, first of all, is something that is required by regulation. I mean, I don't apply risk to my trial master file because I love risk. It's a requirement. So you have to develop and implement a risk-based quality check on your trial master file. And think about risk not just as a negative aspect of your trial master file process, but also as a positive aspect, because you can really understand what are the real area, zone, artifact processes at high risk in your trial master file, and what is not so relevant that I can just skip or maybe check on a less frequently basis. So if you think a risk-based approach applied to TMF, definitely these are the steps that you have to consider. So start from identification, what can go wrong. Then move to an assessment and evaluation. So will the subject safety or the quality of my data be impacted? Try to control. So is this risk acceptable? Do I have to mitigate, or what can be done? Communication is a very fundamental step, because if I notice and if I assess and verify the risk, but I don't communicate with my study team, with top management, doesn't make sense. So share the information. Review it, because risk is something that today is in a status, next month can be changed, because there are lots of variables to be considered into the risk. So always review the risk inside your process and report. So what is the lesson learned? Maybe we can, have a different approach, a different impact next time, because we have learned a lot from this clinical trial. And when it comes to risk, don't forget the quality, the timeliness, and completeness. These are the three main areas where you can have lots of risk, because if you fail in this area, obviously your TMF will not be inspection ready, because these are requirements. These are expectations from the inspector. And then think about also the collaboration. As we said before, there are lots of stakeholders in TMF management process, so it's very important that you will verify if this collaboration, if this relationship has some risk, because maybe they are not aware about TMF expectation, TMF compliance, they are not so sensitive about special readiness. So be aware that even collaboration, even inside your company, not just with vendors or others, other third parties, can be really high risk and relevant. And think about the integration. As I said before, you can use other repository, other system to keep the documentation for an inspection. So think about what are the risks to keep several artifacts that are essential for the clinical trial and reconstruction in several systems and not just in one system. So risk-based approach applied to eTMF is different when it comes to paper, is different when it comes to electronics. So think about this scenario. It's different if you outsource, if you do everything in-house. So based on the model, the risk can change. And obviously, the risk can change also for the step of the process. So based on each step of the process for your clinical trial TMF management, there can be different risk associated. don't forget to document. If it wasn't documented, it didn't happen. So it's very important that once you have identified and evaluated the risk, write a risk management plan, develop a risk management report, write a risk mitigation plan. So write and document everything around the risk management of your trial master file. So we have talked about process, metrics, risk. The other very important tool to understand if you're inspection ready or how to be prepared to be inspection ready is your maturity level. And before starting with talking about maturity level, does your company have a TMF maturity level? This is simple. Yes, no, I don't know.
Okay, so the poll is now live. You guys can head over to the right side of your screen as usual and just give in your answers. So we see that some answers are coming in. I'm going to give it a little bit more time so that everybody has a chance to get their answers in. Okay. Gonna give it a few more seconds. I'm seeing that there's a clear winner. I don't know if you have an idea in your mind, Donna, of what people are going to be choosing or who the winner is.
I can say I can spoiler it. So let's see.
Let's see. So we're gonna give it 5 more seconds. And we are ending the poll. So looks like yes got 17%, close to 18, and no got close to 29%, and I don't know was the clear winner at 54%.
Okay, good to know. So maybe you know that when we talk about TMF maturity, there are 4 categories to take into consideration: TMF organization, TMF operation, TMF processes, and TMF technology. So when it comes to TMF maturity, it comes to understand and do an assessment about what is the status of your trial master file process regarding this aspect of the process. So in terms of organization, operation, processes, and technology. Just to give you an example, because TMF maturity is really something very complex. It would take, I think, the entire day to explain you what it means, but just to give you an idea. When I talk about is a TMF strategy in place that defines the strategic and operational value of TMF, the vision, goals, and objectives, this is a sort of assessment at TMF organization level. If I ask you, is the TMF plan reviewed by all related study team members, both sponsor and vendor? This is more a TMF operation assessment. Is there a process to perform periodic quality checks of TMFs to identify any filling issue to ensure that the TMF meet quality standard? This is a TMF process related maturity question. Does the organization have policies and procedure for eTMF management for the full duration of GCP requirement? We are talking about TMF technology aspect. So different question, different verification about your process to identify what's your level of maturity. And basically we have, you can call it as you want, because if you apply maturity level, you can find different, let's say, similar tests, similar naming, but basically we start from an initial step to go through a managed, a more defined and efficient and an optimized level, let's say, of how you perform activities in your TMF process. And what's this most important thing about TMF maturity is to understand what's the level of your team in TMF management, because based on that, you can define a more efficient, a more powerful training strategy based on the level of the team experience. So you can define a role-based training plan that can really, focus on what are the lack, what are the skills that and competencies and knowledge that are missing in that resource, and do a more efficient and effective training for that resource. And combine the theory with practical workshop, because, if I am a resource that will never do a QC based on my role on TMF, why do you spend 4 hours of your time explaining me how to perform a document you see on the TMF? So it's really important to define what are the roles, what are the responsibilities, and so customize the training plan, and so even improve the maturity level of the resources. So everything starts with a plan. So what I really recommend always is define your maturity level, understand where you are, define what you want to achieve, define your TMF goals. And so that will be the basis for defining and develop a TMF strategy plan. And this is, let's say, the final message to define the strategy, because what we really recommend is an agile strategy, an agile approach, because TMF is not a repository. TMF is not an archive, a passive tool. It's a tool that can really drive your business decision. It's a tool that can give you the data to plan the future. It's where you can understand and improve your process. You can understand what are your issues, what are your deficiencies. You can identify the trends inside your management to improve them and to analyze them. And you can share knowledge inside and outside your company. So the take-home message of all this presentation and from Montrium TMF services is really stop to consider TMF as a repository, stop use a passive approach, stop use paper-based process because we are using technology, so that the process of the technology is different. Stop consider the TMF as no source of information, and stop just develop corrective action. Try to fix issue before inspection, but be active. Have this active approach to your trial master file, evaluate the risk, use it as a source of information, relevant information, and develop more preventive action to improve your inspection readiness. And that was the last slide. So open to questions.
Excellent. I'm just going to ask you to stop sharing your screen, Nana. Perfect. And thank you so much for your presentation.
Thanks to you all.
Always a pleasure. I mean, you talk about Agile TMF. Okay, great. So I'm up here now. So now it's time for questions from the audience. This is the time to get your questions in. So I'm just going to look at the Q&A section. And I have a question here from Raul. He basically wants to know whether you agree that poor scanning quality, that it could affect TMF metrics. Do you believe that that's one of the reasons?
So poor scanned quality, yeah, you said. Mm-hmm. So absolutely. It's part of good documentation practice. What you mean? I mean, when you perform a QC on a document, absolutely, that document must be compliant with some regulation. And the poor, let's say, scan quality is definitely something that will have an impact on your quality metrics. And absolutely is something that you need, first of all, try to fix. So obviously, if you see that there is an issue with a scanned copy, you need immediately to fix it. But my biggest suggestion and first suggestion is try to understand, what was the cause of that issue. Because probably the person that, did the scan is not aware about good documentation practice and the fact that there must be some criteria, quality criteria to respect, not only when you upload a document, but also when you scan a document. So just to give you an example, we develop with a company a working instruction about how to perform QC. And when it was coming the part of scan copy, there was a list of aspects to be identified. And we also develop the working instruction about how to upload the document. And that obviously is different if you are managing an electronic document or a paper that has to be scanned. And so we also detailed in the working instruction of this company all the aspects to be considered when you scan a document inside the TMF to ensure consistency, to ensure the quality. Because not everyone is trained on good documentation practice, not everyone is trained on expectations. So it was a matter of give more detail in the process of how to do these activities of the process of the TMF management, and train the people. So do a corrective action, but also a preventive action with training for the future.
Very good, Donna. Thank you for that. And I love that the understanding, like having that in the process before and communicating that how that should be done is key. So yeah. Thank you for that response. I have another question from Ranla. She asked, do you have templates to assess maturity that can be shared?
Yes and no. I mean, we at TMF Services, we provide different support, we provide different consultancy, and one of these services is the TMF Maturity Model Assessment. So definitely, it's a service that we can provide. We have already provided some company with this service. It's basically what I show you. So it's an assessment of your status, and then representation and sharing of the status, giving you also advice on how to improve, any gaps, any deficiency that we detect during the assessment. So if you're more interested, please contact me, or I'm here.
Excellent. And we have another question from Jess. What do you look for in your training delivery system to support this agile approach?
Oh, good question. So what we did with before let's say, I want to give you a real and concrete example to answer to your question. So what we did with a customer, with a company, was, as I told you before, develop a training plan per role. So we identify the role inside the TMF management process, and based on the role, we identify the need of training. And in terms of need of training, I'm telling you not only the training on the SOP, work instruction, business rule, and all the stuff, but also TMF training, because it was really important to, for people that maybe were entry level, or maybe we know lots of experience in the background, to understand some principle of TriMaster 5. So for each role, we identify the need of training on TMF topics, and then the need.
Oh, Donna, you just muted yourself.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Or training based on your need, and on the background that you have, and on the SOP that you have to follow. So what we did was a verification of this role, and then we defined a training plan, and plus we developed some training ad hoc packages for this company, just to fulfill all the requirements of their needs.
Excellent. And thank you so much. I don't know if anybody else has any questions for Donatella. But if you guys do, you can leave it in the Q&A chat, and we'll definitely reach out to you afterwards. But with that being said, I believe that we are at time. We can give you back like 15 minutes of your time here if there are no more questions coming in. And I just want to say thank you so much, Donatella, for this insightful presentation, talking about that having that agile mindset when it comes to TMF management. So thank you so much for going through those steps. Very, very insightful. And thank you all for attending our very last session at TMF Week for Customer Day. So I just want to let you know that you guys still have time to lounge and get to talk to people in the lounge area, or visit Montrium's booth. And remember, this is what TMF Week is all about. It's about connecting and getting to know each other, and just like building that community. So make sure to head over to the lounge area and connect, chill, and have a good time. One last thing that wanted to let you guys know, there is still time to enter our TMF Pulse Check contest. So we just want you guys to take our online survey, and we're looking at giving away a pair of TMF Converse that look pretty cool right now. So we just would love you guys to give us some feedback, and we're going to be announcing the winner sometime next week. So make sure to get your information in as soon as possible. And with that being said, would like to say thank you all for attending TMF Week 2023. We hope to see you again next year. This was a great week full of insights and tips for you to take back with you. Just want to say thank you again for joining with us. You could have been anywhere and you decided to be here with us. So thank you once more. Have a
Thanks,
great
everyone.
day. Bye. Until next time.